Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Run like there's no tomorrow. Dream big, train smart, finish strong. Let's catch fellow marathoner and pacer Rakesh Pandari, director Nirmal in a candid and live discussion with ultramarathoner and endurance runner Jeroen Renes covering this theme. In fact, very quickly, I'll take you through. I was talking to a couple of friends and relatives. A few things that I learned from them about Jeroen is a great human being, and he has a special gift from God. However, I'll quickly take you through a short introduction about Jeroen. Jeroen is a Dutch national champion in ultramarathon. In fact, overall, if you go to see, all of us must be wondering what's the difference between a marathon and an ultramarathon. Any foot race which is longer than a traditional marathon, length of almost around, say, 42 kilometers, you will actually call it an ultramarathon. Now, if you talk about Jiron, he has completed and he competes at the highest level worldwide. Actually, where marathon runners actually stop, that's where actually Jiron continues running. He has been a former mountaineer. He's climbed the highest peaks of the Alps, but slowly, steadily, now he's gone on to running. He's crossed the Alps running from Germany via Australia. In fact, overall, if you talk about Jeroen as well, he runs on any terrain, trail running in the mountains and the forests, but also fast races on tarmac. In fact, this is overall as the fastest Dutch runner, he's finished the historic and the most prestigious ultramarathon in Europe, which is called the Sparathlon, within 27 hours. And he's almost ran around 246 kilometers from the Acropolis in Athens to Sparta in Greece. As elite runner, he represents the Netherlands during the European as well as the World Championships over 100 kilometers and 24-kilometer races. The past year, Jeroen actually ran innumerable marathons and ultra-marathons, of which he won many. In fact, he's now training 200 plus kilometers per week. And all this while, he's already a father, a husband, and he already has a full-time job as sales and marketing manager. So again, a lot of inspiration for all of us who come from the corporate world as well to find time for all of this. Very quickly, let me take you through his personal bests. He's done almost 50 kilometers in 4 hours, 16 minutes and 47 seconds. He's run 100 kilometers in, say, 7 hours, 54 seconds and 54 minutes and 11 seconds. And if you have to talk about the quantum of kilometers he's done in 6 hours is almost 72 odd kilometers. He's in 72 minutes. He's done 12 hours. In 12 hours, he's ran almost 136 kilometers. And in 24 hours, 235 kilometers. So that's the quantum of achievements that we've been talking about for Jeroen. In fact, let's just quickly hear a short video right now, which will actually take you through his achievements.
Sommige mensen zijn gek van voetbal. Of wie ik bedoel, ja, ik vind het geweldig om buiten te zijn. Eigen laptop is ook te verleggen als alles kan. Dat is ook mooi. Als ik mezelf hoor zeggen, ik heb 246 kilometer in 30 graden geloof ik door de bergen. Dat is best fijn.
So the only thing is you wouldn't have really understood the language because it's in Dutch, but that's a short video about Jeroen. Jeroen, back to you from here.
Thank you very much, Hiral. Very kind words. Thank you for that. So first of all, let me all thank you for taking some of your valuable time out of your day. It's still very early in the morning here, so if I look very sleepy, it's because of the day of the time. We are all in a very weird and crazy situation. being locked in our houses. So I really hope, and that's my personal goal for today, I really hope and want to make the next 1 hour or so really about, you know, positive energy and having a good time together. So I want to really try and achieve that. So this slide, Hiral already shared a lot of background info about me. She knows more about me than my own kids, I think now. I prepared this slide for when I guess my family was not watching, because you can imagine the father and husband bar goes towards 0 when I'm, you know, close to a race. And then the ultra runner goes to 100%, and the work, don't tell my boss, will go to almost 0 as well. Huh? Next slide, please. So there's 3 themes I want to share with you. And I guess it's lessons I learned from ultra running. So today is going to be a lot about running, and I really hope you're going to enjoy it. But the thing is, I also apply these 3 themes to my work life and personal life. So I really hope that you know, can at least get something out of this, whether it's for personal, sports, or work life. And I was thinking about how can I just in one slide make clear what this is about. Maybe Hiral, you can share the next slide. Is there, so what we are looking at, this is not the stock exchange market, going, that's your job. I don't know anything about that. Is there anything out there that has any idea what this is about? I'm just testing if you are still there. Huh? Somebody is there.
Yeah, so Jeroen, I think none of the participants will be able to reply to you because everyone's on mute.
Ah, okay. Ah, I see. Yeah, I see a chat coming in. Huh?
Yes, Strava map.
Very good. You win a prize. I don't know which one, but you win a prize. So what you are looking at actually is a training done by Ranu. Ranu is a runner from India. He lives in Mumbai. So us runners, we often train with a sports watch. This sports watch registers your heart rate. It has a GPS system in there, so you can see the route and everything for further analysis. And Ranu has been training the past half year for participating in the Boston Marathon in the US. That's his big dream. That's what he, that's what he really wants. It's what he works hard for. And then the coronavirus, you know, made the organization cancel the race and postpone it to September this year. So what Ranu did, he called me and he said, Jeroen, I still want to finish that race. This is my big dream. I'm not giving up. Let's come up with a plan how I can train and be prepared when it's September. So Ranu told me he lives in a big building and he can create a 500-meter loop on the balconies and, you know, down the stairs. There's a 100-meter ramp, which is a little bit up, and there are a lot of stairs. So with these elements, we created a training plan to have him ready for the Boston Marathon. So what you are actually looking at, all these blue, you know, lines, that's Ranu last weekend doing his 1.5 hour training in a building. Speaking of, you know, dreaming big, train smart, and, you know, trying to finish strong. So I hope if there's one thing that you will get out of this today, remember your fellow citizen, Ranu. Think about him, and hopefully he is an inspiration to you. Next slide, please. Okay, so let me just point out that if you have any questions, please interrupt me, because otherwise I will be doing all the talking all the time. And if that's okay with you, that's fine, I will talk. But please interrupt me if you want. So ultra running, what is this about? Some people may know. I want to just explain a couple of things and you know, just to get you a little bit of a feel for ultra running. So I think your job is working with numbers and figures. So here are a couple of ultra running figures. You have to guess what it relates to, okay? Actually, Jiron already gave some answers here and there. So 246, what do you think that is?
Guys, everyone can reply on the Zoom chat and I will give you out the answers as I'm on it.
Cool. Okay, let me just, yeah, well, I already see a lot of answers coming in, then. Miles, kilometers. So this is actually correct. This is distance. So this is the longest, the furthest I have ever run. This is the Sparathlon marathon, ultra marathon, and I'll get back to that later. The next quick quiz question. 7:45. What's that? Pace, time. Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah? So I see a lot of it's time or pace. Eh? That's what everybody is saying. Nice. Yeah, so this is actually my 100-kilometer personal best time. So yes, it's a combination actually of distance, 100 kilometers, and pace. I'll leave that up to you. If you have a calculator there, or you can do that by head because it's your job, you can calculate how many kilometers per hour that is. Eh? Okay, next to the third one, 210. What number is that? Elevation? No idea. Very honest. Thank you for that. So 210 is the total number of kilometers I, on average, run per week before a big race. Those are my total training kilometers in 1 week. Then the last one, and the one that gets this one wins another prize. 90. What is that number? Heart rate? Hours per week? Sorry, that's it's something totally different. Yeah, heart rate. I guess the heart rate is a good guess, eh? So 90 is the number of gels that I ate in one of my longest ultra marathons. And a gel is not something for my hair, but you know, the sports gels for fuel. So 90 gels in one race. Okay, well, I hope you get an idea and a feel of ultra. Also caffeinated gels, yeah, but not too much. Okay, next slide, please. I guess I'm also, I have to watch the time, otherwise we'll be out of the hour. Mountaineering. So where do I come from? My father took me up the mountains when I was a young boy. Not this spectacular ones, just more, you know, green stuff and nature. And that actually developed into climbing the highest peaks in the Alps, as Jiron already explained. This is actually a picture of the highest summit in Europe, the Mont Blanc. Next slide, please. So I actually done that since I was very young. And then one day when I was climbing Mont Blanc and returned to Chamonix in France, I was sitting together with a couple of people. And one of these people started to tell me about the marathons he ran. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. How can you run, you know, a marathon distance? And then he told me about the Jungfrau Marathon. That's the pictures that you see here. That's a marathon up a mountain in Switzerland. You can actually see the elevation in the graph. And I thought, wow, this man is a machine. How can you possibly do this? Impossible. But then I started to dream. At night in my bed, I thought, whoa, maybe I want to try that. So I registered. I had no idea what I was getting into because I never ran farther than 10 kilometers, but I finished it. Couldn't walk for 3 days, but that's, you know, minor issue. Next slide, please. Because when I've done that race, I thought, what else is there in the running scene? What other races, and I found a lot of interesting combinations between mountain running and distance running. So I registered for the Tranzalpine Run. And next slide, please. And the Tranzalpine Run, we start in Germany, and then cross the Alps via Austria and finish in Italy. Next slide. To give you a little bit of an idea of how, you know, the altitude that we've been climbing in 8 days, it was 3.5 times up and down the highest mountain in India. So literally run up the mountain to the summit, back again, up again, and halfway back again. To give you a little bit of feel, I prepared a video for you. Jiron, maybe you can share that. So you can imagine this was totally crazy. We started in the valley in the morning. I was standing there on top of that mountain. We had to cross that mountain pass. We started in the sun with our shorts, and I was standing there in my t-shirt, and the mountain guides there keeping us safe were standing there in their big mountain jackets. And us runners had to cross it like it was summer. Total crazy environment. But I started to think, hey, I'm actually quite good at, you know, the longer it takes, the more my talent works. So I started to dream about what can I do next. And I want to share 2 dreams with you today. Next slide, please. And it's one of those dreams, one of those things that, you know, to be completely honest with you, I didn't dare to say it out loud back then yet. I guess that's why they call it a dream. So here on the left, you see a medal of a golden medal of the Dutch National Championships. And I started to dream about participating in that championship and winning that gold medal. And on the right, you see Peter, and Peter had been for years already the Dutch champion. And I thought, I want to get that title from you. I'm a nice guy, but I am going to get that. That was dream number 1. And dream number 2, next slide, please, was about the Sparathlon. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. I read about this. I read books and magazines, this magical race in Greece, over 246 kilometers. You know, a number I could never have dreamt possible. All the elite runners from all over the world were fighting for a place to even participate. I thought, well, I think I will not tell my wife, and I will not share this dream with anybody, but it's too crazy. But it was there. Next slide, please. So then the big question is, okay, there is this dream. It turned into a goal. I made it a bit more specific, 24 hours national champion, Sparathlon. But how do I get that? You know, how do I do that? Every runner is training hard. How can I make sure that I'm better than them? I think that also relates to your, you know, to our work lives. There's more people out there trying to fight for that same money, for the same dollar. Everybody's working very hard. That's good, but you have to be smart about things as well. So let me share 4 secrets with you. Next slide, please. Are there any questions now, Hiral or Rakesh, that you want me to answer, or shall I just proceed?
We'll do later on. First, you finish your presentation, then we'll do.
Okay. So I don't know if there's people out there that are already running or are planning to start running, maybe even have a dream about a race. I'm going to share with you 4 secrets that I apply every time for my race. And please don't tell everybody, because I don't want my competition to be, you know, to get too smart as well. So please bear with me. Don't put it on the internet. Next slide, please. So the first two are speed and fueling, which sound kind of obvious. Speed is about, you know, being faster than the rest, and fueling is about your nutrition during daily life, eating and drinking habits, but also during the race. And it all sounds very obvious, but what I see in races, let me give you an example. I recently raced in Poland over a course of 160 kilometers. It was a 100-miler in, you know, hilly terrain. And what I typically see in these races, there were a lot of, you know, big elite runners, champions from America there, sponsored athletes, and European champions. And what I typically see, as soon as the gun goes bang, they're like, poof, gone. Everybody who thinks they can win are gone. What I typically do is I hang back a little bit. You know, I let them go. I try to keep contact. This can be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe even half an hour. And the rest of the field is gone, within an hour. And what you typically see after 70% of a race, and whether that's a 15-kilometer, a half marathon, a marathon, or an ultra marathon, after 70% of the race, people start to make mistakes with speed and fueling. So what happened in Poland, around 100 kilometer, I saw a runner, you know, getting closer. I thought, hey, he's slowing down. Interesting. Let me get your position. And then there was this other guy who was even walking, and I had a little chat with him if he was okay. And he had not been eating because it was very hot, didn't drink enough, didn't like to. Fueling completely messed up. So in the end, in the last 30% of the race, I was able to overtake just about everybody, all the big guns. So I wasn't even the fastest runner, but I guess in that race, you have to be a smart runner as well. Next slide, please. So I thought we were going to innovation. So I all pack this into a plan. I guess that's maybe the main message of this. It's not just about dreams, you know, and having an idea. It has to stick into a plan. And I'm a little bit of a freak maybe in this, but for races, every race, I make a plan about my fueling, my timing, gear, everything. So the only thing I have to do in a race is execute, which is easy. Yeah? I just run 100 kilometers. Next slide, please. So, and I guess one more click, then the nutrition plan appears. There's a lot of science out there as well, talking about smart. I guess I can imagine in your corporate environment, you know, there are studies out there, there are analysis out there, there's data out there. In running, I look at everything that is out there, from you know, like research, like scientific proof, and I try to apply that to my running in the plan. And this is an example of carbohydrate intake. This is a very important secret, so pay attention and write it down. Next slide, please. Speed is also about don't stop. My rule is I don't stop in a race. I don't stop at the checkpoint. I don't stop for a gel or a drink. So the aim is be faster than a Formula One pit stop. I don't stop. I run. I get my stuff from my support crew here. And you can imagine on a half marathon, every minute or maybe 2 minutes that you spend at the checkpoint, you know, drinking something, maybe chatting, that is going to add up. Okay, next question. Thank you very much. So I've been talking a lot about myself, which is only part of the truth and a part of the success. A big part of my success is about my team. I cannot do anything without them. This is an example of the Sparathlon race. It's in Greece. It's between 30 and 40 degrees Celsius. It's hot. I have to run 246 kilometers, and here's one of my support crew. His only task is to cool me down with cold water. That's the only thing he does at the checkpoint. Then there's this other guy on his knees there that is preparing my gels and my drinks. And really, without these two men, I would never have finished. I probably would have died, I guess. So team, team, team. I see some questions coming in, but I'll just pay attention to that later, I guess. Huh? Next slide, please. So innovation, that's the third secret I'm sharing with you. Next slide, please. One thing about, I guess, innovation, we always tend to think about, you know, technology around us or nice gadgets around us. But innovation, in my mind, starts with yourself. And in my case, that means that for every training that I start, every new race that I enter, I want to, you know, become a better version of myself. I want to improve. So innovation is not necessarily the outside world. It starts with me. And one of the key things is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I guess we are all in that situation now, locked in our houses. This is a very tough lesson we are all learning at the moment. And this is also a lot about the mental stuff. Don't seeing my family anymore, having no private life, always having to train. It's not only the physical aspect. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, sorry, I was not. If I have to do them by heart, it's going to be interesting. Eh? Ah, there you go. So another innovation topic. Of course, I also look at the environment. There's stuff happening around us. And in my case, in Sparathlon in Greece, the heat was a very big influence. So I adjusted my running gear to that. Two things here that you may notice, the white arm sleeves that I'm wearing, these were, if you make them wet with water, they start cooling your arms, which is very nice. The other thing is, together with some technical guys here in the Netherlands, we developed this shirt. I was the only guy wearing this shirt in the Sparathlon. And the trick about this shirt is that we are actually using the air that you generate, you know, the wind that you generate while moving forward, that was being used as like a ventilator over my upper body. And in that way, keeping me cool. So all the other runners were overheating, slowing down, and I was feeling kind of okay. Next slide, please. Okay. Innovation is not about big, major things. This is actually quite an interesting one. I try to apply to my work a lot. You know, just try to figure out a small switch that I can pull and then get a very big gain or effect. The banana is one in my racing. Picture this. I'm running a 100-kilometer race in Germany. It's the national championships. And this race is all about pushing, 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 fast, 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 fast. You know, no slowing down, really hard running. And there was this moment that my support crew wanted to tell me, hey, Jeroen, you need to eat more. You need to drink better. And you have to maybe even slow down a little bit because you're going to explode. But they could not tell me, remember the Formula One pit stop? I don't stop. And I ran over 13 kilometers per hour at that point, so we could not communicate. So at one point, they gave me a banana and my drink. I wanted to eat my banana while running. I thought, that looks like a weird banana. So they actually wrote their message on that banana about my pace, what I should do, that I should drink more. And I thought, that's a perfect example of a very, you know, marginal switch, but with a big effect on my result. Next slide, please. Last one, mental. A lot of people think running in general is about, you know, your physical abilities. I can tell you it's not. of course, there has to be a basis, but the biggest part is about your mental, about your brain. Let me share an idea about that. Next slide, please. So this is the route of the Spartathlon. We start on the right-hand side in Athens. And this is, you see all the checkpoints leading all the way down to Sparta in the middle of the screen. That is 246 kilometers, 75 checkpoints. Next slide, please. To give you a little bit idea what that would look like in India, that would be running, starting in Mumbai and then running to, say, Manbat. So imagine yourself standing at Mumbai in your shorts and your shoes. You've trained hard and you start to think about the way that you have to run. The interesting thing is what happens is that your brain will start telling your body, my legs, my muscles, that is a long way. It is very hot. How are you going to do that? And along the way, definitely my brain will shut down my body and my legs. So what is the thing that I do here? Next slide, please. The next thing just to oversee this thing is literally actually take small steps. So I run to the next checkpoint. I know that I can run for 5, 10, 20 kilometers, right, to the next checkpoint. And as soon as my brain registers that, then my legs will follow. Okay, let's just get to the next checkpoint. I can do that. And then at the next checkpoint, I fool my body again and I tell myself, let's get to the next one. And I repeat that for a long, long time. And the other thing is just keep moving forward. Okay, finish strong. So we talked about dreaming big, having dreams, making that a goal, chasing that goal and training smart. But what is, what do you get out of it? What is in it for you? What do I get out of it? And I want to share 2 things with you. Next slide, please. One is, one of my dreams was representing my country in championships, European championships, and even world championships. Well, I was able to do that. I was able to wear, I am able to wear the orange t-shirt recently in Qatar in world championships. Next slide, please. The thing is, it's not only about the trophy. You see a couple of them hanging there at the back. It's not only about winning. It's not only about the trophy. In the end, if I relate this to my work, it's not only about, doing what I have to do, getting paid and stuff. There's more to it. Let me take you back to the Spartathlon and share what I get out of races like that. So picture this. Oh, sorry, can you just, this is okay. So let me just take you back. I started running in the Sparathlon on Friday morning. I ran all through the Friday during the day, into the night. I ran in the night with a head torch on, through the night, and in the early mornings, you reach Sparta, right? And there's all these people shouting there for you. And all along the way, I picked up this English runner, Pat, that you see here, and we kind of helped each other the last bit. Next slide, please. But so that's all nice. We helped each other, but in the end, the finish and my final position is depending on when I touch the feet of a statue from King Leonidas. He's a historic king, and you are finished when you touch his feet. Next slide, please. So I was friends with Pat a little bit, in the race. We were helping each other, but now we had to, say who gets there first. Next slide, please. So I tricked him a little bit. I think I am a nice guy, but I did trick him, and I, touched the statue first. So I guess that was me in a better position. Next slide, please. And of course, winning, getting prizes, that is very satisfying. But to be very honest with you, the most important thing is something else for me. Maybe next slide. And that's this stuff. So I finished the Spartathlon. I ran for 246 kilometers. I've been underway for 27 hours. This is a picture of me and my wife in the medical tent. They check you. I was fine, but they just want to make sure that everything is okay. This is a picture of me and my wife, and actually my little daughter. You can still see her blonde hair over her shoulder. And we talked about, you know, being comfortable or getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's not just for me. It's also for my family. You know, I don't see my family a lot in the hard weeks. I don't see my kids that often. And when I finish, I'm from a very big, strong guy. I get this tiny little boy and I just cry, right? Next slide, please. The next slide is a picture, a big hug with one of my support team members. Again, without them, I would never have finished. Next slide. So that is great. Great story. I hope you enjoyed that. But then something terrible happened. I was actually training again for my next dream. I was having dreams. I wanted to improve myself. I got better and better. And then all of a sudden, I came back from a training and my knee hurt really bad. I couldn't stand on it. I couldn't walk with it. So I went to the hospital and had it checked. And these guys in the hospital just said to me, next slide, please. This is the letter. They just said, yeah, well, your knee is not working anymore. Stop running. It's over. That's just, you know, a letter. It's their work. But for me, that made a huge difference because all my dreams, all my hopes, all the plans that I made and was making were out the door. No more running, Jeroen. That was a very tough moment in life. Next slide, please. But I guess you are already starting to get to know me a little bit. So after a year of not running, I was only cycling and really taking it easy. But my mind just could not give up yet. So during a summer holiday 4 years ago, we are talking 4 years ago that this happened. During a summer holiday in Austria with my family, there was this huge mountain there, which I found very challenging. And I thought, what if I can just try and walk or run, jog, crawl up that mountain? What would be possible? So to make a long story short, I did. I got up that hill and I thought, wow, if I can do this without 1 year of training and that knee is for some reason okay, what else is possible?
Correct.
Next slide, please. So what I did, I actually put into practice what we've been talking about. This is an email from me to a specialist in the Netherlands. I started to think about, okay, I need to reinvent myself to accomplish, still try to accomplish my dreams. So I contacted specialists, not for surgery, I don't want that, but just smart people that know the body a little bit better than me even. And next slide, please. And I started to train smart again. And so you see some numbers here, but the most important thing is, I guess, to the right, I started to test myself in races again. And what amazed me and everybody around me, I immediately started, you know, finishing on the podium and winning again. So having told 1 year ago, your running days are over, a little over a year later, I was actually on the podium again, and I still am, for which I'm very grateful. And these 4, I guess, secrets that I'm sharing with you is the key. Next slide, please. Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of talking. I try to combine this in 6, actually there's 7 steps that I try to put into practice for running. But again, it is quite interesting to have a look at this and think about your work life and even your personal life. And to be completely honest with you, so we talked about, I hope you think, if there's one thing you get out of this, think about Ranu. But I guess there's another thing I want to point out, and that is, what dreams do I actually have? What dreams do you have? If you're sitting inside of your house, just give that some thought. And this is very hard in these times, right? But I think even having a dream now, an ambition, will also get you through these hard times in personal life. At least that's how I'm applying it at the moment. But for running, it all starts with the dream. That becomes an objective. I want to be a national champion. if that objective is in my mind, I am going to focus on that because I want to achieve that goal. And with having that focus, I want to be a national champion. The discipline comes. I need to train. I'm very tired. I don't want to. I want to stay on my couch. No, no, no. You know, I am focused, so I will get out the door and I will do my training. And when I do my training, I will run well, at least. And with a little bit of luck and maybe extra training, I can win. So these are the 6 steps. And there's the 7th one, which is equally important, is the team around me, which we already talked about. So I guess there's one more slide that I want to share with you. And that's this one. So I think we're going to get to a question and answer, and I really hope that I can answer all your questions. I will do my utmost best. But let me just first answer the one I get all the time. So maybe that takes away 50% of the questions already. People ask me, why are you doing this, Jeroen? Why are you running these crazy distances? Why are you not spending all the time with your family? Or why are you not focusing on one thing? I guess the only honest answer would be, if it would make sense, it would not be exciting. That's why I'm doing this. It gets my energy flowing, it gets my heartbeat up, it gets me excited. And I guess that's in the end why I'm doing this. That's it for now.
Thank you very much, Jiron. It's very kind of you, and really we all got a lot of known about things about ultra marathon. We have many questions already in the chat box, but before I start with them, just I want to know 2 more special thing. Which one is you think is the hardest or toughest ultra marathon you have run or you want to run in your life?
So I like to make a distinction there, because the toughest in my mind is there's a mental aspect and there's a physical aspect. The toughest ultra marathon I ran was actually the national 24-hour championships. In a 24-hour race, you have a course of 2 up to 3 kilometers, a loop. And for 24 hours, I am running on that race course. 24 hours just running in circles, literally. From a mental perspective, that is the most difficult thing I've ever done. That type of racing. And from a physical perspective, I guess I would have to say Sparathlon, because, after, I guess, around 200 kilometers, weird stuff happened to your legs, and that really hurt. And I was very worried that I could even, you have to imagine, I had been running more than a day. For example, the last half marathon was slightly going down to Sparta, but at that point my legs were very tired, and even running downhill was very painful. So I was very worried about even finishing that race, while I was actually so close, just a half marathon. So that was definitely the hardest thing from a physical point of view.
Okay, now we have viewers asking some questions. Do you pay attention to zone-wise training?
What training?
Means like, particular region where you are going to run, any particular weather or something, terrain, or, you train according to that, or you just your normal training and you just participate?
So I train, I guess Jiron already shared that. I really like running and training on any terrain. I like road, I like flats, I like mountains. But it's all related to the objective in the end. If my target race is flat and fast, then I train more in that respect. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. And do elite runners use heart rate based training?
Yes, definitely. So there's actually 2 ways that people train. There are actually 3 nowadays. So heart rate zones, speed zones is the second one. And nowadays, also with power, like the cyclists, the pro cyclists, the Tour de France cyclists. Some runners already also now train with power zones.
Okay, someone asked, is compression socks help or some, any particular shoes help in this running, or it's there is no hardly any help?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question. This is directly related to innovation and gear, and you know, scientific evidence that is out there that, for example, compression socks, but also compression shorts, they help. And that's not the sales guy telling that, but it's actually people in the laboratory that, you know, investigated that. And especially compression socks are very helpful. Yeah, yeah.
And how do you motivate it when you don't want to run? Means like, you know, when you're running 247 kilometer, there must be some point where you think that now it's your mind is saying no, your body is saying no. How you keep motivated yourself to finish till finish line?
I guess there's so that then it becomes a total mental game. I think there's a couple of things. One of the most important thing is that I tell myself when I'm in the low is that I know that there's going to be a high again. And this is not only for ultra marathons, but this is also in a half marathon. This is also in a marathon, in a 15-kilometer. In every race, there will be lows. That's a rule, but there will also be highs again. And this can be in 5 minutes. That's amazing. And so that's a very important one, knowing and believing that it will get better. And it always gets better. And the second one is, and that is what I try to tell myself a couple of times as well in these low moments, is don't let all your training, don't let all your effort be a waste of time. Finish this. Don't give up. It's a waste. Otherwise, all your training, all my preparation would have been a waste. That keeps me going too.
How do you deal with your self-doubts? Whether you are going to start, means like, you know, you are going to finish it or not, or should you participate in that particular race or not?
That is funny. So I guess I developed a strategy for that. In the beginning, I was always looking at other people, you know, and the people that look very tough or with very nice gear. I thought, ooh, they are probably better than me. I just don't do that anymore. I focus completely on myself, and I trust the training that I've been doing and the plan. Here you go. You remember the Excel? I know I can execute the Excel. I can execute the plan and stick to what, you know, what I've trained for and what I know I can do. So I'm totally focusing on myself. I don't look at the rest anymore. In the race, I of course start doing it, but not in the beginning.
I like this question very much, and I think every runner is facing the same question. There is a school of thought that human bodies are not made for that such long run. What's your view on this?
This is a trick question, eh? We can have a very long discussion about that. Eh? So I think there's two sides on this answer. The honest answer would be yes. I'm convinced that, you know, running ultra marathons, doing a lot of running, does, you know, more to your body than a person that is not doing that. If that is bad or worse than not doing anything at all, I don't want to get into that discussion. So that's one. Yes, there's a big effect and a big impact on my body, I guess. But on the other hand, I like the idea of why this all started, especially the ultra running comes from people long time ago that were, you know, when we needed to hunt for our food and to get this nice food on the plate, we had to chase, you know, animals for sometimes days. So we were very used to running actually ultra marathons, but we kind of lost that feel as a human being. So I think there's a balance between, you know, trying to get back to that way of living, and then it could be done safely. Yeah.
And another one is like when you are running 27 hours continuously. So what thoughts what thoughts are coming to your mind? What all new thoughts or old thoughts, or what imagination you do during that long hours?
This is going to be a very boring answer. It's focus, focus, focus. When do I need to take my next gel? Am I not running fast enough? What is my average heart rate? Where is the next checkpoint? I don't look further than maybe even half an hour, sometimes to the next checkpoint. So I don't allow myself to drift away and think about anything else. I'm just in the moment, in the race, executing the plan, and that's it. Towards the end of the race, when I know I am almost there, and especially when I know that I'm going to finish strong, then there may be a more emotional thought here and there that I feel like that I'm going to do it, and then it's more like happy thoughts and emotional thoughts, I guess. But 95% is about the plan.
Okay, and how to increase stamina for like so long endurance running? How do you increase your stamina? Or somebody new is like how we should increase our stamina?
Yeah. So this is about training smart. This is an interesting question, especially you see this in half marathon training, marathon training, and especially also in ultra marathon training. It's not wise to do a 40-kilometer training run for a marathon, right? That doesn't make sense. For me, it doesn't make sense to do a 246-kilometer training run. So what you do is you try to say collect the distance in a week, spread it in the week, and increasing stamina and endurance is in the end about slow, easy training, low heart rate, for example. But that's not all. I guess one of the secrets I want to share with you now as well is it's all your stamina and endurance is not only influenced by, just going out the door for a long run. It's also about the tempo run of only half an hour or maybe an hour during the week. Because by that training, you increase your base speed and you will be able to, run longer in your longer runs. So it's a combination.
So earlier question was that the John Wise training, basically it was for heart zone. Do you pay attention to John Wise training? Heart zone.
To whose training? Sorry.
Heart rate means the heart zone, like moderate or extreme. Like, do you train according to that heart zone?
Sorry. Yeah. So I personally now train with speed zones in different speed zones. But for runners that start running, I always advise to train in personal heart rate zones, because then you really get to learn your body. You know exactly, okay, with this heart rate, I need to slow down a little bit, because otherwise I will not be able to sustain. So for a lot of runners, I would advise to use training for heart rate zones. It's very safe. And then later maybe go to speed.
Okay, this another question is, what percentage of total training plan do you dedicate to base building and race specific strength?
So let's take so 4 to 5 months. Okay, now let's take half a year. Half a year for preparation for a target race. Then the first about 2 months is about base training, building up endurance, no spectacular interval training. There is speed and endurance in there, but it's base. And then after those 2 months, it is about 3 months of more, maybe even 3.5 months of more race-specific training. But there's a build-up. I cannot run maximum kilometers, 200 kilometers a week for 3 months. Then I will get injured. So there's a build-up in this race-specific training as well. I guess the peak training is always taking place, so to say, the last 6 to 5 weeks before the race. And then before the race, 2 weeks of taper.
Okay, and how many hours you spend on gym, and what kind of training you perform in gym?
In June?
Gym.
Oh, gym, sorry. I'm a very bad example. None. I don't like it.
Okay, and in addition to that, is training on treadmill is good for knees or not?
Ah, that's a good question. Yeah, it's because of the cushioning. There's more cushioning. So if you feel that your knees need that extra cushioning, that's actually, yeah, that's an option. On the other hand, if you have the ability to run on forest trails or in a park, something green, then actually that's the same effect. So you could change that. Yeah.
Okay, should one do some sort of weight training for ultra marathon or only cardio?
So yeah, I personally I don't do any other cross training, but I know a lot of other runners do this. It's anything from strength training. Well, the guy we were talking about, Ranu from Mumbai, he has a personal trainer as well for strength training. So twice a week he does strength training like planking with some weight training, stuff like that. And then we try to combine that into the running preparation, which is fine. Yeah.
You use music during running?
I did in the early days, but for years I have not been doing that because Rakesh, we were talking about what do you think about in the race? It's only focus, focus, focus. But in training, I really like to let my mind go everywhere. So I think about a problem I have at work. I think about the beautiful forest that I'm running in, or anything else that pops to my mind. That actually, especially in times like these, that keeps me sane, my training.
It's one very special question for you. You have achieved so much. Is there anything which is still best yet to come, or you already achieve everything?
That's a very good question. I still have dreams. And one of them is to participate in one of the biggest ultra marathons in the US, the Western States.
Bad weather, bad water.
Yeah, no, yeah, but no, not. Oh, Badwater is another. That's a that is tough. I don't think so. Maybe, but Western States. Scott Jurek won that 7 times in his career.
Yes.
But it's very difficult to get in. Not so. It's not so much about what you can do, but they have a lottery and they have a lot of people entering that race, and they just pick a number, and then you are in or out. And I tried to get in for 2 years, but I didn't. So I don't know whether that's going to happen, but that's a dream. And another dream I still have is, and I haven't done that yet, set a new national record on the 24-hour race. I would like to end up in the books here and there.
All the very best. And this is really very good question. Actually, I think most of us want to know this. How do you manage the need for sleep while practicing long run and while actually running those ultra long distances? How you manage your sleep?
So I'm thinking if this is my answer or a lot of ultra runners. I think a lot of ultra runners would answer like this. I don't have a problem at all with that. And I guess it has to do with preparation. The last weeks before a race, I try to sleep a bit more than normal. But I think also it has to do with, when you are running and when you are in a race, your body is just too busy working. And you have all these endorphins, and I never have a problem with that. That is actually a very good question. But no problem there. No.
Okay, and do you have any weather advantage as a European? Because in India or Asia, we have very, hot weather. So do you think this is adding your, achievement?
Yeah, I think the circumstances in which you have to train are very important. I guess in India, it's now, is it monsoon time now?
Yeah. In July, June, in Bombay, it will start from June.
Yeah. So, circumstances like that, it's like, so here's the innovation part again. That definitely influences everybody's training. So You know, if you're training in Mumbai in that period, that's very hard. It's harder than when I am training here in the Netherlands and it's a nice cool breeze and clear skies, right? What I personally try to do is that I actually go out of my own country, my own city, and then train somewhere else. So to at least train in different environments every now and then.
Okay, this next question answer will motivate so many in India, definitely. Question is, should overweight people run? Will it cause injury?
Will running cause injury? Sorry, was that?
Should overweight people, those who have, having weight put on, so they should run, or it will cause an injury to them?
Very good question. You'll have to be careful with that, sure, because even a well-trained person, you'll have the impact on with every step that you take. So putting weight on that puts a lot more stress, of course, on your muscles, on your knees, on your ligaments. So that definitely weight is a very important factor in keeping things healthy. I would not like to say that there's a weight limit or something. That doesn't make sense in my mind, but it's something to bear in mind for health reasons, but also for speed reasons. It's unbelievable what 1 kilo of weight slows you down like tens of minutes over the course of a half marathon or a marathon. And you can imagine that 1 kilo in an ultra marathon is going to slow me down for an hour or even longer. So there's sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
No, I just wanted to point out, so with weight, there's a health point of attention, I think, and also a speed winning point of view, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, we have now last two questions. First is, what do you eat before race, and what is your recovery strategy after race?
So before the race, so rule number 1, never try something new before a race or during a race. I only do stuff that I tested in my training. Before the race, I tend to take something like or bread or porridge. The main thing being that I want to have carbs in there, a lot of carbs. But not too much. You know, I don't want to have a full stomach, so I don't eat a lot. And I actually drink quite a lot. Just before the start, I drink a sports drink to get more carbs in and to be completely hydrated. That's one of the key things. And after the race, recovery, the first 20 minutes, also for training, the first 20 minutes after training are crucial for recovery, because then your body is still, you know, open to whatever you throw in, like protein, for example. You have to add protein and carbohydrates for recovery. And those first 20 minutes after a training or a race, your body accepts most of that good stuff, right? So your recovery will be faster. And after that 20 minutes, it's about drinking a lot, you know, getting all the acids out of your system, drinking a lot of water, and try to keep moving a little bit so, you know, your legs don't get stiff. And sleep.
Okay. Last, and I think the best question, you know, how you celebrate your achievement or your finish your run? Do you drink alcohol?
Oh, I've done that in the beginning. I thought I earned a beer, but then I had the most terrible headache ever within 5 minutes. No, so alcohol is a very bad idea in my mind, because right after a race, because your body needs to recover first. Yes, I celebrate with a beer or a wine, because I don't take that before running and the last couple of months before running. But you know, maybe the next day I celebrate and I allow myself, but also chocolate. I don't allow myself chocolate. I love chocolate. And the next day or after the race, I celebrate with stuff like that, that I was not allowed to eat or drink. And in the race itself, I just celebrate by throwing my hands in the air and falling into the arms of my support crew and family.
Okay, one last question. Actually, she has written twice, thrice. Already you answered, but again, if you can answer, do reply. How much water first off means like gel? How much gel water you take during a marathon, or what gap in between that?
Okay. So two things. I'm going to make this very specific, so you can actually try and apply this. For a marathon, I would advise to take 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrates per hour. So, and any training that is longer than 2 hours, try to get 60 up to 80 grams of carbohydrates in. For your reference, if you would only be taking gels, that would be at least 2 gels. And you can also use sports drinks, etc., etc. So that's very important. And from a drinking, it depends a lot on the heat. If it's like in Greece, in the Sparathlon, where it was 30 up to 40 degrees, I guess in India in summer, you will probably want to drink on the long runs, like in the marathon, a liter, 750 milliliter, a liter an hour. And on colder days, the minimum would be somewhere between 300 and 500 milliliters an hour. So I think in hours, every hour, I want to take carbohydrates in and milliliters of fluid.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jiron. Really, it was very nice, and everybody was, very happy to learn a lot about you and learn from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I guess, as they say in India, I practice this. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. I think the world is following Namaste, Jeroen, now.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for coming and giving your time. Thank you very much.